We only got a couple more of these left. Here with my guy Stuckey. The final four of the NFL is here. I think we got the correct final four teams now that we found out that the Bills were sneaky kind of – they were like the good version of frauds, not like the Vikings who just weren't any good. The Bills were good, but a little fraudulent when it came to championships. Stuckey had a really good year gambling. Gets a little harder now. We have this Mahomes mysterious ankle injury that might not actually be that bad. And then this Niner-Eagle game, which – it is really hard to predict. I mean, it's not easy. What's cool about this week, unlike previous weeks, lines a lot smaller, which makes it a little more complicated. Stuckey, what's happening, bro?
Yeah, what's going on, brother? Yeah, it's first time since 1998 that both conference championships have a spread below a field goal. And obviously the Mahomes ankle injury is looming large here. I mean, and yeah, by the way, congrats to the Bengals. I was dead wrong on the Bills. And as a Ravens fan, it's so annoying because so close to beating the Bengals. And that's why you just get into the playoffs. Just get in. Like, say the Ravens don't give up that fumble return, win that game, go up to Buffalo no-shows, you win that game. Then all of a sudden Mahomes is potentially hurt. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, we can go to the Super Bowl. So just in the NFL, that's why you just get in and anything can happen. But yeah, we have the Mahomes injury obviously looms large here. I think that, and we've seen a lot of movement. The Chiefs opened up as a favorite. The Bengals got all the way up to -2.5, never got to 3. Bunch of sharp groups came in, took the Chiefs then, and now we're sitting at Kansas City -1. There's also the video of Mahomes walking and he looked fine and he says he's fine. You can't put too much stock in what these coaches and players are saying during a playoff week, but this line has been all over the place. But definitely I think we have the 4 most deserving and arguably best teams, which we didn't have last year. So yeah, it should be an exciting championship Sunday with only sadly 3 football games left.
Yeah, it's funny because over the weekend, right, he gets the high ankle sprain, or we thought it was. I guess there are different levels of high ankle sprains, and then plays through, limps around. Clearly he was, in some pain. And then it happens to Pollard, and everyone's like, well, Mahomes, can this guy come back? And it turns out he had broken bone in his leg. So it was like that made some sense. I mean, about last weekend, I thought the Cowboys showed up. I mean, their defense was fantastic. Their defense played a playoff winning game, and ultimately their quarterback did not. You can't throw 2 picks that lead to, scores, even if they're not touchdowns. That's 6 points.
Especially in that low scoring defensive game.
It was 9-9, 6-6. The picks in those type games are, complete kick in the dicks. I mean, they're devastating.
Yeah. I mean, granted, the 49ers don't ask as much of Purdy, but Purdy looked like the veteran quarterback. You can go back and say, there was a drop pick, but that was off of a tip, right? And if you go back and there was no, turnover-worthy bad throws that Purdy made the entire game. And, yeah, Prescott made those mistakes. And in a game, especially in a game where no one's getting to 20 and it's that low scoring, you can't turn the ball over in the playoffs, and that, especially on the road, and that was the difference ultimately.
Well, and it turned out the night game on Saturday, when the Eagles are healthy, the Giants have no shot. I mean, they're in a completely different ball game, and I don't even think it was just everyone overreacting to the previous week. It was like, what's up with these Eagles injuries? Lane Johnson played, looked fine, and Jalen Hurts obviously looked pretty good too, and that was a boat race. And now we have. I think it's pretty clear. Obviously, the Chiefs and the Bengals have Mahomes and Burrow, and the Chiefs have Kelsey, and they have Chase and Higgins. But top to bottom, these are the 2 best rosters in the league. And we are getting just an absolute heavyweight fight starting on Sunday afternoon, or depending on where you live, Sunday late afternoon. This line's 2.5. And my ultimate take here is, because it's hard, right? You have a rookie quarterback going on the road. This is a very, very tough environment. This is not – last year when the Niners played the Rams, remember a lot of the talk, and I went to the Week 18 game. It's a Niner home game. It was an easy travel. Yeah. It was an easy to buy. You're not threatened by Rams fans. This is a little bit different ball game. 1, the travel is just far. And 2, it's just you're not rolling into the link wearing a Debo jersey and feeling great about your, yourself. It's just it's a different environment. Now, the Eagles have the advantage at quarterback. When Jalen's healthy, he's better than Brock Purdy. He's an MVP level player. I think the 49ers have the advantage at head coach. I mean, Kyle's won a ton of playoff games. And ultimately, Sirianni now is just, he's a CEO head coach. He's not calling offense. He's not calling defense. So not only Kyle's the head coach, but he also dictates the game. And, the weakness for the Eagles the last couple of years has been the much maligned in Philadelphia, the defensive coordinator. Now, Steichen, the offensive coordinator who took over for Sirianni last year, is fucking good. Clearly. I mean, he's really good. And they like Kyle, they got horses. But D'Amico, I would say is the best young defensive coordinator in the league. Like the coaching matchups in this game is elite. I mean, just from both coordinators against each other. I would just lean, if you're talking two teams that are basically equals, just take the team with the points. And it makes me feel a little bit better. I'm not trying to be a Niners homer here, but they have just gone on the road over the years and they just keep these games close because they have really physical teams and they got a bunch of war daddies who are used to these type environments. Now, I would say over their playoff runs with Kyle, they've won 6 games since 2019. 4 of those have been, I guess 3 of those have been on the road. Their best players just make enormous plays. They get turnovers. They just create chaos. And they it's not always like when the Eagles are rolling, it looks really good. The Niners is a little bit different, and that's how they want to play. So I just think, if you like the Niners in this game, they're going to keep the game close. Like you would take the 2.5. Now, if the Niners lose, I can see them losing by a couple scores. It's one. And the Eagles a little bit. You saw in the games where they've lost, right? The Saints game. I guess Minshew was playing in that game, but still, and obviously the Commander game is if you keep it close. I mean, they don't have a lot of experience. It's not like this team has been rolling for half a decade, right? So yep. I'm going to go Niners plus 2.5. And just as a fan of football, I would love to just see this thing be an all-time great game.
Yeah, I don't have a side here. I mean, if it gets to 3, I think you would see sharp money come in on San Francisco immediately. I think if I had to make a play on either the side or the total, I would probably play the under here. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game where both defenses show up. I mean, the key is, and we said this with the Giants-Eagles last week, the Giants had to keep that close early, and they didn't, and then it was just going to get away from them, which it did. And a similar
14-0 last week felt like 30-0.
Yeah, and it was just lights out. And a similar thing here with Purdy is you don't want a rookie quarterback and this offense playing from behind. Like, see, you just want to, I think you want to come out, take the punch, take the crowd. And the 49ers are a team that's built for that, right? With their run game and their defense. These are the teams that historically have gone on the road in hostile environments and pulled off upsets because you're going up against history. I mean, Purdy's the 5th rookie quarterback to ever start a conference championship game. And the previous 4 went 0-4 with 4 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. That's Mark Sanchez, Flacco, Big Ben, and Sean King. And a rookie quarterback starting rookie quarterback has never gone to the Super Bowl, let alone won it. So yeah, I think that you want to treat this game with like kids' gloves early on, which Shanahan can do. And you want to rely on your run game, and then just 3-0 end of the first quarter. Perfect. Great. Like we're fine now. And then we can play our game. So
wouldn't you agree the quarterbacks you just listed, those guys were true? Not that Purdy's not, but like he can throw 3+ touchdowns in a game. Well, those guys, their rookie year, obviously Purdy's never going to be as good as Ben one day, but like as a rookie, Purdy can have a 3-touchdown passing game. I don't know if he will against the Eagles, but he's consistently done that.
Yeah, and he also has better weapons around him than than Sanchez and Flacco and King had. And I think a better staff and just situation overall. And your rookie road conference championship game, probably going to be some jitters. Like you just got to get him through those first couple drives. And that's what they do normally. It's like, easy, manageable throws, and then he can start making plays as he's done. But 2 props that I played in this game, 1 for each side. I played McCaffrey under 63 rushing yards, which is kind of scary because you can always break one. But when we get to this point in the season, the lines are very efficient. Everyone knows the teams. I try to think of, okay, what is the other team going to do and how are they going to approach this game strategically? I would assume that the Eagles here are going to do something similar to the Cowboys. And because they're normally like, we don't blitz, and I don't think they're going to blitz a lot, but we don't blitz. We sit back in our zones, which I don't think you want to do against all of the Niners, what they do from a pass perspective. But I think that they're going to say, look, we're going to put an extra defensive lineman, maybe go 5, 6 defensive linemen time, put an extra guy in the box, because I think that they're going to say, rookie quarterback on the road, you beat us to start. So I think they're going to be focused on taking away the run. And you also have, like, McCaffrey, I think he's going to be fine, but he has the calf injury. You also have all these other backs that the 49ers can use. So I think that the Eagles are going to make Purdy throw it. And so they're going to be focused on stopping the run. So I think this number is a little bit inflated. And Jalen Hurts is probably my favorite prop in this game, under 49.5 rushing yards. And he's looked healthy, but he's just not running it as well the past couple weeks. He had 9 for 34 last week against an awful Giants run D. He had 9 for 13 against the Giants the week before that as well. He's also gone under this number 9 of the past 13 games. And if you look at what the 49ers have done, against, when they were healthy, their defense against mobile quarterbacks, no one's really done anything against them. I mean, Dak got to 22 last week. You had Fields, who had, I think, 30 on 11 carries in week 1. And this is a team, and look, if you look at who the Eagles have played, they have not played many great defenses. And when they have, their offense has struggled significantly more. And the 49ers, look, when you get to this point in the season, there might be a reason why Hurts hasn't had as much success running the ball lately. You can scout. There's more advanced scout on what these teams are looking to do. So early in the season, when Hurts was running for 130 yards, it was, whoa, what are the Eagles doing here? 49ers have film on that. And also, 49ers have an elite run defense. The 49ers also have elite linebackers who can, go sideline to sideline to, what you're really worried about here is Hurts breaking a long one here, which would really mess this prop up. And on top of that, the 49ers are a very slow team. What does that mean? There's just not as many plays in the game. And I also like the under. So, 49ers are a ball control offense. They take, 28, 30 seconds, let's snap the ball. It's not as many plays in the game. So I think this is a great matchup for them to limit Hurts. That's what they'll be focused on in the run game. So, give me Hurts under 49.5 rushing yards.
Yeah, I think like the Niners against good teams, against bad teams, they were scoring 30 plus points with ease. But against, as you saw with the Cowboys, and I think their game plan is going to be very similar. They're like a 90s basketball team. They'll win a game 88-84 and feel great about it. Just they loved winning that game 19-12. They would have been cool with winning it 16-12. Like they were the Eagles, clearly a little bit more like a modern day basketball team, want to win that bad boy like 125-115. So I think just schematically. Now the one difference, I've had a lot of people, like buddies, asking me like about this game, fired up. Right, a lot of Niner fans, like, what's the difference between them and the Cowboys on defense? I said, well, based on last week, Van Der Esch looked like fucking Brian Urlacher. He was all over the place. And the Eagles, like, one of their weaknesses has always been linebackers. Yeah. So it's just, if the Niners can run it, then obviously that's a huge disadvantage for the Eagles, where it was really hard to do that. The Cowboys kind of ran out of juice at the end, but for the majority of that game, there were no lanes. And to me, on the flip side, for the Eagles, like DK and CD the last couple of weeks have kind of lit them up. Well, the Eagles got 2 dudes. And the team's different, but AJ destroyed him last year on a Thursday night game. I mean, he destroys everybody. He's an elite player. And Devontae's really kind of come into his own as a, star young player. So if those 2 cats go for like two bills and a couple touchdowns, it's going to be tough. Now, if the Niners can keep them combined, I would say like under 150-ish. So they're each around the 70 and just like 1 touchdown, meaning they're playing well in the red zone, then they'll have a chance. But like ultimately CD and DK, they just didn't have help. Like they showed up to kick ass, and this team has 2,
Yeah, so and I agree. And I think I would assume that that's the, thinking about the strategic too, going back to the Hurts prop, is that I also think that the Eagles will probably come out here and try to attack more through the air, knowing that that's the softer spot of, the 49ers don't have many soft spots, but if you're looking relatively speaking, it's trying to attack them and beat them deep. And so I don't think that they're going to be running as much as they have. And I'm sure the 49ers will be ready. But yeah, if I had to say what happens in this game, it's, can the 49ers just get through the first quarter? If they do, and it's, still close, nothing catastrophic happens, flip a coin, 20-17 is your winner. With the coin flips your winner.
Yeah, this environment is going to be berserk. I think both these two I talked about on the podcast, like these are elite the NFL is a television product, and these games on TV, the home environments are just special, right? Philly and Kansas City. And unlike the Niners and the Eagles, I mean, they don't have any recent history, right? I mean, these teams, it feels like the Bengals and the Chiefs right now they are definitely the rival. right? I mean, these are the two best teams in the AFC for the last couple of years, and they've played each other nonstop. And the Bengals keep beating them, So I think there's just added juice that I bet a lot of the people, season ticket holders that were literally at this game a year ago, witnessed whatever the hell that was. It was not pretty. And I look back at the last couple box scores, Chase and Higgins have just been killing them. And so it's like, to me, that's the thing. Like, can they just slow a little bit like AJ and Devontae? Can you slow those guys down? I mean, good offense always, it's hard to stop elite, wide receivers, but you can't let these guys just dominate you in the air. And Mahomes' health, which he's definitely playing, but they just have a lot of juice. I mean, I think in the NCAA tournament, we often say it's hard to beat a team 3 times or hell, sometimes 4 times or whatever. Like it's pretty difficult to beat a great team, which the Chiefs have been now for 4 straight years, 4 straight times, several times on the road. So I would just go the law averages, take the Chiefs in this game. But I wouldn't make a living betting against Cool Joe. Tell you that much.
Yeah, what a fascinating game this is. If you look, I mean, Mahomes in his career is 17-6-1 against the spread as either an underdog or a favorite of 3 or less. Like, do you need him to win the game? He's been as money as any quarterback in the Super Bowl era. He's also 7-1-1 against the spread as an underdog. We'll see if he closes an underdog or not. So if you want to just take those trends, great. But that means you have to fade Joe Burrow, who is now 20-5 against the spread over his past 25 starts. That includes 16-1 over the past 17 games against non-divisional opponents. He's 19-7 against the spread away from home in his career. How about 15-2 straight up in his last 17 games against teams with winning records? And they've gone 22 straight games without losing by more than 3 with Jamar Chase starting. And my favorite stat, I came up with this, is he's 21-2 against the spread in his past 23 starts against teams that aren't or have never been the Cleveland Browns. 21-2 against the spread. So why is that? Well, a lot of it is he is dominant in the second half because he's great. He's clutch. He has great receivers. But their defensive coordinator has made arguably the best second half adjustments over the past 2 seasons of any coordinator in the entire NFL. And that basically is what has happened in all 3 meetings that all happened in 2022. This will be the 4th meeting in the past 13 months. The final scores are 27-24, 27-24, 34-31. And the Chiefs could only muster 10 points in the 4th quarter combined, and overtime. There was an overtime too. That's it. They were completely shut down. They were either leading or tied going in the 4th quarter every single game of those 3. And you have Burrow in the second half, who's clutch and great, and their receivers, as you mentioned, they made plays. And a lot of times the Chiefs are really good at taking away your outside receivers. Didn't matter. Burrow knows where to put the ball, and they make plays. And then the defensive adjustments have been spectacular. Mahomes has lit them up almost every first half. And then in the second half, their defense has shut them down. So what changes here? We'll see. I tend to think, so if I was making this line, it would be like Chiefs -3, -3.5 if Mahomes is healthy. If there's no Mahomes, it's probably Bengals -3.5, 4, worth, touchdown plus, and you're also crossing 2 3s, the most important numbers in the NFL. So this is kind of the hedge line. Like, he's not going to be fully healthy. So I would lean look, you're getting the Chiefs at a discount if you think he's going to be fine. You're also getting the total at a discount if you think he's going to be fine. I just mentioned those 3 games. They all reached at least 51 points. So I would lean Chiefs and over. But the way that I'm going to attack it is a couple of ways. One, I played Mahomes over passing yards. So I don't think he's going to run much, which means that's, one less avenue where yards come. But he's either healthy, and then you're getting this at a discount, or he's not, and it leads to some errant throws. And then the Bengals are building the lead. Then he's throwing from behind. And then it's like a game script where you're just throwing and maybe getting a bunch of garbage yards. I tend to think he's going to be better than the market is assuming here. So I think that you're getting this at a discount. And the Bengals run defense, especially with Reader in there, has been awesome. And the Chiefs aren't really a great running team. So I think there's going to be a lot of quick passing. And I think the Bengals are going to score too, which leads itself to a back and forth game. So I like the Mahomes over passing yards, which the fear is, because it's his plant ankle, is that it might maybe, and this has been the only thing you could say bad about Mahomes in his career. It's also why he's so great, but he tries to make too many plays sometimes, and it might lead to a turnover in the red zone. So if his footwork is off, he might be moving the ball up and down the field, but you might get one or two more errant throws that lead to turnovers, which would be bad for the Chiefs bet and the over. So I think Mahomes is going to get his yards regardless. And then on the other side, I'm going to go Burrow over 18 rushing yards. These quarterbacks, like if Mahomes was healthy, he would be running wild. These big time quarterbacks in big time games will take off whenever necessary. They'll call their number. I'm going to make the play here. And they just run a lot more than they're used to doing. I mean, last week he ran it 9 times for 48 yards. And, he ran it 9 times, 48 yards against the Chiefs earlier this season. He ran for 31 last week against Buffalo. And the Chiefs defense they play a lot of man. It just welcomes quarterback runs. Over the last 11 games since the bye week, they've allowed the second most rushing yards to opposing quarterbacks in the NFL. Average 5.2 carries for 35 yards. Those quarterbacks, 9 of the 11 got to at least 22. So I think Burrow's going to use his legs here, especially with the offensive line questions. Last week in those conditions, you can't really get a pass rush. Can't really get your footing as a defensive lineman. But that's different, normal conditions here, as long as it's not icy or snowy. So what does that mean with pressure? That means you're going to be taking off more. You're going to be scrambling more. And against a defense that really invites it. So I like the Burrow over rushing yards. I just ultimately think it's going to be a great game. Can the Chiefs, but the Mahomes ankles, the first thing to watch. The second is, can the Chiefs make the necessary adjustments to overcome what Cincy's done in the second half? And then still, even if you do, you got to worry about Burrow at the end with those receivers. So
for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing game.
I mean, you just hit on it. If the field is in pretty good condition, the offensive line, guys that are missing in action, Frank Clark last week, you could tell he's kind of a bright lights guy, saved it all season for, the playoffs. And obviously Chris Jones against random guards. I mean, you could line him up over any player, right? You could put him on the outside against a backup tackle and feel pretty comfortable about it. The other thing that's pretty interesting is looking last year that, the Chiefs ran for basically 140 yards. McKinnon was their leading rusher. To me, Isaiah Pacheco is just a much more explosive player, and McKinnon now who's a good player, just moves to the kind of backup role player role. That's something to keep an eye on. Like now, Andy is not the most inclined guy to hand the ball off a lot, but if you're having success because he's such an explosive player, that might be an added element that wasn't quite there last year, even though the numbers were good, of just more explosive plays that definitely – you would say going into a game when your star quarterback is just somewhat compromised, running the ball helps. Even Andy Reid, a pass guy, is going to have to call some runs. So it's just makes it a little bit easier on Patrick.
Yeah. I mean, the Bengals also are going to be maybe expecting that. So,
yeah.
But I think you could argue that this, as long as Mahomes isn't completely hampered, because a lot of their offense now is, and it always has been to some degree, is his mobility and, what he's able to do and create and buy time. But now if you want to maybe create some new plays, some new packages. So there's the element of surprise here. It's like you just mentioned, is Kansas City going to run it a lot more? How are they going to, maybe they're going to run it with their receivers more. Maybe you get one or two more trick plays. You're going to have some pass plays and schemes that you haven't seen all year potentially. So that element of surprise here could work in Kansas City's favor. But you're definitely, I think, going to be missing just the Mahomes ability on the 3rd and longs, right? So why he's so great is it's 3rd and 12 and he drops back, someone gets pressure, he's running around directing someone, and then he fires a bullet 18 yards downfield and it makes it look easy, and Kelsey catches it and it's a first down. That's huge. It's like 3rd and 12 and he makes it look like it was 4th and 1. So yeah, that might be missing from the game plan, but we'll see. No one really knows how healthy and mobile he'll be, which is the element that we are all guessing at right now.
Remember that touchdown run he had against the Titans in the playoffs, where he did like the 360 at the end? I mean,
yeah,
that is, even last year
he had against the Bengals earlier this year. Remember, he went like, he was like going to dunk the ball. It's like, so that's probably not going to be there, which is part of what makes Mahomes great, but he's still fully capable of dropping back and throwing on the field. If there was a game, 2019, week 1, he had a high ankle sprain against the Jaguars, finished the game. And the next week there was questions if he was going to play. He ended up playing against the Raiders. He had no rushing attempts. and was clearly not mobile. He dropped back 45 times, threw for 460 yards and 4 touchdowns. So with his high ankle sprain. So there's always him. Now, look, the Bengals defense is better than that.
A little bit better than the Raiders, you know.
But yeah, he was still fully capable of. And if anyone like can throw it on with unorthodox style, it's Mahomes. So yeah, I can't wait for this one. Two of the best quarterbacks in the NFL going head to head for the 4th time in the past 13 months.
If Mahomes played the Raiders every week, I don't think the Chiefs would lose often.
100 touchdowns a year in potential.
I mean, shit, they don't lose often as it is. Well, Stuckey, let's enjoy this because this is the last doubleheader of the year, and then we just got the one big game, which is sweet, but it's you know its own little event in itself. So this is the last pure football weekend of you know till the fall. So enjoy.
Let me ask you one question: if you, as a Niners fan, you have if you have the choice. So if you guys win, and I wish you luck, do you want a Super Bowl rematch, or do you want Joe Burrow? Do you think it doesn't really matter? It's going to be tough no matter what.
Andy's my guy. I know a lot of people with the Chiefs, but I want part 2. I want part 2.0, and I think that's my pick. I'm going Niners Chiefs, but you know I still got a lot of buddies with the Eagles, so it's like I'm cool if they are, you know, a legit. If they beat the Niners, to me, are they favored in the Super Bowl?
They wouldn't be favored over the Chiefs if
he's healthy.
If Mahomes is healthy. So you got 2 extra weeks. We'll see what he looks like. If the Bengals win, depending on how they win, like depending on how dominant, like if they dominated at Buffalo, and then if they dominate at Kansas City, and then the Eagles barely squeak by, maybe. If not, that game's probably flip a coin.
If the Bengals go back to the Super Bowl and have a 2-year stretch where they beat at Kansas City twice and they curb stomp the Bills, it's one of the greatest road playoff teams I've ever fucking seen.
Unreal. Yeah.
So I'm not discounting it. I mean, obviously, the cool part about this weekend, the lines reflected every matchup's possible.
Yeah. If anyone ever says that they know for sure who's winning either of these games, they're lying to you.
So can't wait. Well, Stuckey, have a good weekend. Talk to you soon, bro.
Absolutely. Good luck, guys. Have a good one.